everybody, welcome back to my channel, and today we're going to be talking about PCOS and my story and where I'm at now. So if you don't already know, PCOS is polycystic ovarian syndrome. It's where cysts or fibroids are growing on your ovaries and other parts of your reproductive system, and it causes you immense pain and body issues, weight issues, depression, anxiety, and many other things. It's a very stressful and hard to understand issue. 1 out of 10 women have PCOS, and they don't even know about it. For me, I didn't know what it was or exactly what it is, why I'm having all these issues or anything like that. So here's my story and how it started out. Since I can remember, I started having my period around 9 years old, and my periods would last about 2 weeks, sometimes a little bit longer, and they were extremely painful. My mother took me to my primary care doctor, and the first thing my primary care doctor told me to do is to take birth control. And then told me that there's a possibility that I have some other issues as well, but my mother at the time was not really into that idea of starting birth control, so we didn't do it. Years go on and I turn 18 years old, and I move out and move in with my fiance, and for about the first 2 months everything was fine. I was enjoying life, it was all good. And then one day I started having these really awful, I wouldn't call them cramps. They were a lot worse than that. And, I thought, okay, maybe I'm just having a really bad period. No big deal. Well, days went on, pain kept going, wasn't bleeding. I then thought, okay, well, let me take a pregnancy test. No big deal. Took a pregnancy test, came back negative. So I thought, okay, no pregnancy, I'm fine. Well, the pain continued and it got worse and worse. And eventually I went to the ER, and this is a repeated thing that happened where I would go to the ER. They would tell me it's a UTI, or I had a yeast infection, or I had stomach issues, which was all a lie. Never had that many UTIs back to back to back. That's just not something that would happen. Eventually, I went to the OBGYN in my area, and I told her what was going on and everything else, and she said, okay, we're gonna go ahead and put you on a birth control, and we'll take a test for the UTI or a yeast infection or anything like that, and we'll get back to you in a little while. So I thought, okay, no big deal, it'll be fine. It was not fine. The birth control wound up not working for me. I tried about 5 different birth controls before I finally switched to a different OBGYN, and there I just kind of stopped taking the birth control, and I continued to have issues and problems, and I started getting back pain, and any certain way that I would lay or if I would twist, I'd get this awful pain to the point that it would bring me down to my knees, and I would get so nauseous and sick, and I wouldn't want to eat anything, and I didn't understand why I was gaining weight all of a sudden. It was a very, very difficult time, and I didn't think that I was gonna make it through all that. Then I went to a clinic in my area because I was having issues again, and I thought, what the heck, maybe I have a UTI. Well, the wonderful doctor that was in there, she looks at me and she goes, to my understanding, it sounds like you have symptoms of endometriosis. and you need to talk to your OBGYN about it and get it handled. I had no idea what endo was. I was freaking out, calling my fiance. I was crying, hadn't even left the hospital parking lot. I was just so upset. I felt like my world was ending. So I made an appointment with my OBGYN again. I went in, and my fiance went with me this time. I told the doctor my symptoms. I brought a list of things that was going on. And she looked at me and goes, "It's probably all in your head. But if you feel like you really have endo, then we're gonna put you back on birth control." I was just so mad. So freaking mad. I couldn't even comprehend what was happening to me. So my fiance and we went home, and I started looking for different doctors, started talking to different people about it, doing as much research as I could about endometriosis, and eventually my problems got to the point where I had to go back to my doctor. I went back and I looked at her and I said, "Look, I don't know what's going on. I don't know if I have endometriosis. I don't want to be on birth control anymore. I need to do something different because I cannot do this anymore. It's so painful. I can't live a normal life, and I don't understand what's wrong with me." My wonderful doctor, the same one who told me that it was all in my head, decided, okay, well, it sounds like you have the symptoms to PCOS, which is polycystic ovarian syndrome. So they did ultrasounds and everything else, and nothing. There was no cysts, there was nothing. The only thing there was fibroids, and that's it. So she said, even though I have the symptoms and I don't have the cysts, she's going to treat me for PCOS, and she put me on a different birth control, a low estrogen birth control. That messed me up worse than anything that I've ever taken before. I was irritated, I was crying all the time, I was, starting fights with family members, and it wasn't me, I was a different person. And I absolutely hated it. I regretted it, every minute of it. So I went back to my doctor and I was like, "Hey, this isn't working. I don't want to be on a birth control. There's something wrong. Do some blood work, do something, fix it, because I can't do this." And I know doctors aren't miracle workers, and I know it's something that not all doctors necessarily believe in, or they feel like there's not enough proof that it's an actual thing, which is very frustrating. She wound up doing some blood work, found out that my testosterones were through the roof, which is why I was starting to get hair on my chin, hair on my chest. I was getting skin tags, I was getting dark spots all over my body, almost like bruises, and my acne was so bad. I didn't have a period for like 4 months. I was taking pregnancy tests from left to right, and I didn't understand what was going on. So my doctor finally broke down and was like, "Okay, well, what do you want to do?" I said, "I want to be put on something that's going to regulate my period, where I do not have to rely on birth control. At this point, if I get pregnant, that's a wonderful thing." Because according to her, I only have 4 to 6 years to have kids before it's too difficult or it's less likely for me to have kids, which was heartbreaking because I've always wanted kids. It's just something that I've always wanted. And the fact that if I can't get this fixed, there's a chance that I won't be able to have a child of my own is very heartbreaking, very heartbreaking. So she gave me a hormone therapy pill for progesterone, which, thank Jesus, it works. It's helped me a lot. My period's already started. I'm still having issues that I'm dealing with, but it's nothing near as bad as it was before. So all I have to say is, if you have PCOS, if you have endometriosis, that I understand what you're going through, and you're gonna be okay. You just have to take each day and walk through it as best as you can, and just stay hopeful and don't give up on your goals, your future. And you just have to remember that.